Fox News' highest rated hosts are in a little bit of trouble. News recently broke that two women had filed complaints of sexual misconduct by top Fox News hosts, which include Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, Howard Kurtz, and Ed Henry. So now, Ed Henry, of course, no longer works at Fox News. He was fired on July 1st after an internal investigation. So, boom, that was no contest. Immediately, I mean, within a week, Ed Henry, absolutely gone. Okay. Now, the rape allegation comes from Jennifer Eckhart. Now, she was a former freelance administrative assistant turned associate producer for Fox Business. Now, according to the New York Times, Eckhart described a history of workplace harassment and a relationship with Ed Henry that she said included rape and violent sexual contact. So now, of course, the entire thing is the actual suit is incredibly graphic. I'm not going to get into that because I'm sure there are some people that are watching. I mean, it comes with a trigger warning, right? So I don't want to get into the extent of what they actually did. Let's just say that it was not good, Ed Henry. So now she alleged that Mr. Henry had coerced her into a relationship by promising to advance her career. That the nature of that relationship, of course, would be sexual. Now, and of course, that ended up being a bit sadomasochistic was the word. And so, boy. Now, Fox News, of course, as I mentioned earlier, they immediately fired Mr. Henry after Eckhart came out with these allegations against him. They said the network did not challenge Ms. Eckhart's allegations against Mr. Henry, noting that Fox News already took swift action as soon as it learned of Ms. Eckhart's claims on June 25th, and Mr. Henry is no longer employed by the network. So now look, Ed Henry, kind of not really somebody who made a lot of waves at Fox News, as far as I'm concerned, right? So that's definitely not a top tier host. I don't even think he hosted a show at all. Might have been a co-host or a contributor. And so somebody that didn't really bring in a lot of viewers. That leads me to the second plaintiff, right? So now the second plaintiff is a woman named Kathy Aru. Now she's a former Fox contributor and also known as a liberal Sherpa who, would guest on Tucker Carlson Tonight and several other shows. Now, I was curious about what a liberal Sherpa was, right? Again, it seems like slightly racist comment. But I guess the whole purpose is, when you bring somebody who's a liberal on Fox News, generally they do so that the host can destroy the argument and publicly own the liberal. I don't know if that's the case. I've never seen her on. I don't watch enough Tucker Carlson, so I'm unfamiliar with her. Nonetheless, right? Now, she's alleging sexual harassment. Again, Ed Henry, he seems to have gotten around, but it's not just him. She also claims that Sean Hannity had offered his staff and crew money to take her out on a date during preparation for a taping. And that, she had declined that, of course. And afterwards, well, she basically never made it on his show again. That's messed up. That's definitely, punishment. He also would say, well, I only did that because you're such a beautiful woman. Well, you know what? That's not your prerogative, right? You're there to do supposed to be there to do a news show, but it is Sean Hannity after all. Not to try and set people up. It's such a weird, gross thing to do. But again, not just him, right? Tucker Carlson's show. During her final 2018 appearance on Tucker Carlson's show, she alleges that she was kept on the set by tech crew who refused to take her off earpiece so that Tucker Carlson could invite her to a hotel room where he was staying that night without his family. Now, why would you invite someone, again, your family's not there, why would you invite a woman to your hotel room then. That's weird. Now, she declined, and she alleges that she was punished in her career by only being featured on a show about 3 times since. Now, she also said she declined a meeting with Howard Kurtz, who does Media Buzz, and she actually had appeared on that show quite regularly. Now, Howard Kurtz allegedly wanted to meet her at a hotel room again one night in 2019. She's like, how about you meet with me and a friend for dinner? That sounds perfectly reasonable, right? For dinner. The hotel room, obviously, we all know that what that's about. Come on. We're not naive about this stuff. All right. We're just not naive about this. We know what that means. Afterwards, after she said, let's go to dinner instead. Let's have a fun little dinner. Me, you, and a friend. And it's obvious why she would bring a friend. And he said no. And then afterwards would not talk to her about possible advancement opportunities, telling her, quote, in sum and in substance, you're the only woman here who won't come to my hotel room. Well, that says a lot about the women who work with Howard Kurtz. Pretty heavy charges. Now, look, let me just say that it's got to be adjudicated in court, right? Rod, and look, we don't know necessarily if it happened. At this point, it's her word against theirs. Obviously, we need to know more. One good way is, I guess, some of the witnesses, but then, of course, they would have to come forward. That said, would I be surprised if this were true? Absolutely not. I mean, consider the atmosphere within Fox News. This is the environment that Roger Ailes fostered for decades. Sean Hannity and Carlson, they worked under Roger Ailes, as did Bill O'Reilly and his famous falafels. So Ailes, of course, look, some of the stories about Ailes, I've told you on the show a long time ago, back when he was let go from Fox News shortly before he passed away. And, he would lock women in his office and allegedly run around without his pants on and chase them around the room. Real gross stuff. Real gross stuff. That's the kind of environment that was fostered at Fox News. And not just that, but there's the environment of retaliation, right? Roger Ailes would only give women, attractive women, career advancement or a job, right? And would also threaten to blackball women from media, especially back in the 60s and 70s, when it was much more difficult to get a media job as a female anchor. And he would basically say, sleep with me and I can get you a job. And if you don't, I'm going to prevent you from getting a job anywhere else. That's stuff that came out about Ailes. And the fish rots from the head down. That's exactly the culture that was created at Fox News. Look, you had Megyn Kelly, you had Gretchen. What was it? Gretchen. No, I can't think of her last name for some reason. Look, you've had these numerous women talking about this, alleging this. These two are not the only one. And so there's a serious culture problem at Fox News with misogyny. And that's what's going on here. And so, again, no surprise that Miss Aru, a frequent guest but not an employee in the network, said that she had been retaliated against by these hosts. Now, she also claimed that Gianna Caldwell, another Fox News contributor, inappropriately asked her to lunch in exchange for a meeting with Ann Coulter. Oh, yeah, just have lunch with me and I'll introduce you to Ann Coulter. Again, could that be like, it depends on the context, whether or not that is inappropriate. Like, is he like, come with me to lunch, just have lunch with me, just a little bit of a date, and then I can introduce you to Ann Coulter later. Or, hey, I'm going to lunch with Ann Coulter. You want to go? I mean, again, the context matters, right? And so I don't know for sure. But going back to what it looked like at Fox News. I mean, not good. Now, Eckhart and Aru are seeking damages against Fox News and the defendants for sexual harassment, creating a hostile work environment, retaliation, and of course, in the case of Miss Eckhart and Mr. Henry, violations of laws against sex trafficking. Wow. They are demanding a trial by jury against Fox News, Ed Henry, Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, and Howard Kurtz as defendants. Wow. Look, they must have some pretty compelling evidence to back up their claims, and be feeling very confident. Or if you're a cynic, you can say, well, that might force them into a settlement. Who knows, right? I don't know what's going to happen. Now, Fox News is already saying, no way. Here's their statement. Based on the findings of a comprehensive independent investigation conducted by an outside law firm, that was not mentioned, including interviews with numerous eyewitnesses, we have determined that all of Kathy Aru's claims against Fox News, including its management, as well as hosts Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, and Howard Kurtz, and its contributor Gianna Caldwell, are false, patently frivolous, and utterly devoid of any merit. We take claims of harassment, misconduct, and retaliation seriously, promptly investigating them and taking immediate action as needed. And look, to back that up, they did fire Ed Henry, real quick, right? In this case, the appropriate action based on our investigation is to defend vigorously against these baseless allegations. Ms. Aru and Jennifer Eckhart can pursue their claims against Ed Henry directly with him, as Fox News already took swift action as soon as it learned of Ms. Eckhart's claims on June 25th, and Mr. Henry is no longer employed by the network. So what Fox News did is immediately wash their hands of Ed Henry. Honestly, who is a big fan of Ed Henry, right? Who's a big Ed Henry stan? I don't know. I'm sure maybe they exist. But here's the thing, right? And this is where my cynical mind starts rolling, right? The wheels start turning. The hamster wheel comes to life. When it comes to, Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity, they're Fox News' top-rated hosts. Tucker Carlson runs the largest, best-rated show on the Fox network. And Fox News is already a cable ratings juggernaut. Tucker Carlson drives a lot of that ratings. So, I don't know. I think when it comes to the Fox News's first instinct, it is to protect the people who bring in the money. That's just me. Again, I don't know the investigation. I don't know the details. I don't know what they found. Maybe they're right. But again, would you be surprised with that culture, with what's going on? And it's not just at Fox News, by the way. People in power, regardless of ideology, are capable of doing heinous things when given free rein, when given that power. I mean, especially when you have an environment like media, corporate media, that fosters that. We saw it with Matt Lauer, right? Matt Lauer would lock women into his office. And, he had a literal button under his desk that would lock the doors. Come on, dude, really? Really? And not only that, but we've seen it with people in Hollywood. We've seen it other people in media. And that's the unfortunate reality of women that are trying to get into this career. There are powerful people out there that are more than happy to use their power to groom and exploit women who want to advance their careers. So again, I don't know what the facts are, right? Those would have to be adjudicated if this ever goes to court, which I hope it does. And we get to see evidence. And if this does happen, these women deserve justice. And I'm just saying that, for my personal opinion, I wouldn't be shocked if they actually did do that. If, at least in some of these cases, these allegations are true, because I've seen this happen before, and I've seen this. Harvey Weinstein, another great example of people grooming, women, very powerful people, very powerful men, I should say, grooming women for their own, personal sexual gratification. That's all I'm saying. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.